This is Keys to the Shop, episode 229, 7 Tips for New Managers. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFurio. I'm your host for the show. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you're subscribed to the show. That way you'll always be updated when there's new episodes like this one. So just hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And also, if you could leave a rating or review for the show, that would be awesome as well. I want to let you know also, on top of being a podcast, Keys to the Shop also offers consultation for you, your business, if you're looking to take your operations to the next level, or if you're starting a coffee shop and need a trusted advisor to help you through the process. I would be happy to talk with you and see how we can help you out. If you just reach out to me, Chris at keystotheshop.com, there's lots of different options. We can set up a free call to talk about what it might look like for you to work with Keys to the Shop Consulting. So again, reach out, Chris at keystotheshop.com, and I look forward to talking with you. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prima Coffee. Prima Coffee is a wonderful specialty coffee equipment supplier located here in Louisville, Kentucky, where I'm located, and I've known them since the beginning of their company, and I can't recommend them highly enough. They're dedicated to finding the best equipment from all over the world and then helping you select that equipment so it's the right fit for your situation. They have wonderful resources over at their website, prima-coffee.com, and those resources are developed to help equip you to use this equipment well, to be a better coffee professional. They're dedicated to making you successful, and it shows in the products that they carry and the way that they carry themselves as professionals when they're working with you. So if you're looking to open a new coffee bar, expand your coffee bar, or just upgrade the equipment that you currently have, Prima Coffee makes a great partner in that endeavor. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a reliable partner to help outfit you and your company with the best equipment, then Prima Coffee is the company to reach out to and work with over at prima-coffee.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Pacific Barista Series. This is the line of plant-based performance beverages that are designed for the professional barista and basically by the professional barista. Pacific reaches out to get an enormous amount of feedback from the professional barista community globally before any of these products hit the shelves and make their way into your customer's cup. And it's no wonder why this is the preferred plant-based beverage worldwide, because it really does perform on the bar. It produces an amazing texture, perfect for latte art. It stands up to the heat from steaming, and it also keeps the balance of the beverage, so it's focused on the coffee each and every time. Your customers are going to really appreciate all of the research and development and thought that went into these beverages and the excellence that it produces with each beverage you serve. So whether you're looking for almond, soy, coconut, rice, hemp, or oat milk, you can find it in the Barista Series line. Go visit them on their website, pacificfoodservice.com. If you're looking for the best in plant-based beverages, then the Barista Series from Pacific is where you should be looking, over at pacificfoodservice.com. Okay, everyone. So today I wanted to talk about 7 tips for new managers. There are a lot of things we could say to new managers, and the reason why we're bringing this up today is because in the reshuffling of organizations, there's a lot of people who are being put into the positions of authority that are either in charge of a new crew of people or are just first-time managers. In either case, because of COVID, I think I've been seeing a lot of this reshuffling and taking the opportunity to start off on the right foot, whether it's with a new team or you are yourself a brand new manager. These tips are going to help you succeed in your role and not burn out in the process, which, I maybe don't need to tell you that when you work in coffee as any kind of leader, there is some kind of a disconnect when it comes to how we manage leaders, maybe just how we manage people in the coffee bar. We let people burn out all the time, and we're really good about caring for the coffee for the most part, but not so much about the people. And as a manager, you're responsible not only for the people, but you're also responsible for yourself. And that means caring for yourself and making sure that you can bring your best and be at your best more often than not. So I've narrowed it down to a few things that I think if you put these in place and follow them religiously or fervently or make them a habit, you will see the compound effect of these habits over time. You'll basically generate interest on these habits, and it will really set you up for success. So let's start with number one, which is to pace yourself. It's easy to go into any new position or new opportunity and want to make your mark, want to show the people that put you in that position that it was not a mistake. And maybe there's a little bit of imposter syndrome that goes along with that overcorrection to the shock and awe nature of being a new manager, where you just want to change a bunch of stuff and you want to have a bunch of meetings. And there's a list of things that, boy, now that I'm the manager, all the stuff that I wanted to change, I get to change. And in the process, we can either overcommit ourselves to a lot of different projects and say yes to too many things. We've had a couple episodes in the past I'll link to in the show notes that have dealt with this pretty well. One with Bruce Tulgan on the art of being indispensable at work, and also Greg McKeown on Essentialism. And so those are great ones to listen to around this subject of pacing yourself. But yeah, you can overcommit easily, especially when you've got something to prove. So on the same note with pacing yourself, the only reason why anybody could pace themselves is because they've put the brakes on a little bit. There's a little bit of patience that has to be applied to entering into a management position. And putting the brakes on when it comes to, wanting to do all these things and commit to all these projects, this is not the same as you kind of getting in the way of progress. You're delaying yourself from proceeding into something until you know it's the right move. Big difference. Don't view this as procrastination necessarily, but investigation. And, let your yes be an absolute enthusiastic yes or an enthusiastic no. Pacing yourself is so critical because you want to be seen as someone who is earning their keep. Especially as managers, it's hard to reconcile whether or not you're earning your keep because, for the most part, you always had the bar shift to prove that you were earning your keep. You went through the rush right with them, but now you're working on the schedule in the office while they're dealing with the rush. You feel guilty a little bit for not being there with the team. Even though you're taking time out of your life, you're clocked in, you're serving them well in the places that not everyone sees. So that's a hard place to be in, and it causes us to sort of forget about that being a legitimate form of work and to overcommit by doing more visibly so that people know, hey, this person's really doing a good job because look how busy they are. They're running around all over the place. They're working 60, 70 hours a week. I remember once when I took over in a management position, I was working 70-hour weeks for about, 5-6 months or so. I'm not sure exactly how long, but, when you're working 70-hour weeks and you're a manager, you just one day blends into the next. So who knows how long it really was. But I know it was a living hell. But I felt compelled to do it because I had this doubt about what I was contributing. Do more, do more, do more. And you know what? One of the things that's true about coffee, everyone's busy, and so everyone will let you do it. Everyone will let you overcommit. Everyone will let you not pace yourself. And then when you burn out, they won't even know why because they weren't really paying attention. So really, it's up to you to pay attention to your own pace and know that this is a black box. There's so many moving parts in a coffee bar. And if you just throw yourself into it without pacing yourself, you're going to burn out. And that's not going to serve you well. It's not going to serve anyone else well. So apply some patience, put some brakes on, take a look at what you're committing to, and make sure you can do it well. Now, number two really factors into this heavily, which is you have to get clarity from your boss. So if you've committed to pacing yourself and not, biting off more than you can chew, when you do take on something, you have to know that you're taking on the right things. there's an equation that's basically, in my mind, it's like 60-40. 60% of your job is basically the stuff that the boss hired you to do. The stuff that is the schedule, the P&L, the inventory, and whatever else it was in your job description that is going to get you a raise or a promotion or whatever it is. If the boss is going to sit down, look at it, and say, how are we doing on 1, 2, 3, 4 items, those are the items that need to be prioritized throughout your week. In getting clarity from your boss about how you spend your time and what your goal is as a manager is very critical. You can basically call this managing your boss. Like I said earlier, you are in an environment where everyone's busy, and that includes your boss. And, maybe you're not really thinking that they're busy with things that they should be busy with, but it doesn't really matter because you can't control them. So get that thought out of your head. Being bitter about what should happen versus what is happening, that only goes so far. You have to look out for yourself in order to look out for others. That means managing your boss, getting clarity from them, no matter what the situation, within limits, of course. But make sure that they are telling you the things that you need to know. You might need to go to them and ask for very detailed information. And sometimes they might be, they might be annoyed by that. But when they see the results, if you do it the right way, they will be thankful that you're sort of teaching them how to be a boss to a manager. That's really critical. Being a boss to a manager is difficult because the boss sometimes thinks, hey, I've got a manager now. That means I can be hands off. That means I can just let go. They basically become derelict in their responsibility to be a leader because they figure they just hired a leader. So what do I need to do? I can go look for other locations and then check in every 2 or 3 weeks and make sure everything is cool and, kind of half-heartedly, slap someone on the back and say, good job. And then they should be fine. This is wrong. And you need to remind your boss just by, frequent communication and trying to gain clarity about their priorities for you and drawing out from them what they want. Remind them that you're human and remind them that they can't be hands off. Okay. And this is not supposed to be done with a heavy hand, by the way. You're not coming into this as if you're their boss. You're seeking clarity from them for them. Again, you're seeking clarity from them for them. You work for this person. The owner of the company pays your paycheck. You want to make sure that you're taking care of what needs to be taken care of. Now, that's the 60% that I was talking about. 40% is going to be the fires that you need to put out. It's going to be the little projects that you undertake or the delegated projects that you assign to staff, the deep cleaning, the repositioning of the coffee urns, the new program about cleaning out syrup spouts every night. Those things are under your purview, and they're details that aren't necessarily in your job description. But if you put that in the 60% category first, then you're not going to be about the business of your main responsibilities. And I've done that where I've come into the situation and said, wow, there's lots of little projects that I'd really love to get my hands on. And I just get my hands dirty doing that work, and I feel proud and great about it. But guess what? As much of these little items I'm juggling, I'm dropping the big ones. Oh, the schedule's not out quite on time. Or I failed to hold somebody accountable for how much they were ordering for their store. And that's on me because I was so concerned about this pet project. So keep things in line. 60% is your, what you're hired to do. And then the boss kind of expects that you're going to be busied with, taking care of the issues that come up in the cafe, taking on little projects that help support the big picture goals of the business. Those are definitely part of what you do. But, gaining clarity from your boss about that 60% is really, really critical. And it's always a part of what you do. All right, so pace yourself, number 1. Number 2, clarity from your boss, so critical. And then number 3, we're talking about making meaningful change and having small wins. When you set your hand to the task of management, It's easy to want to put in a bunch of changes that basically act like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like a manager is marking their territory, for lack of a better way to put it. Like, this is my spin on the cafe, and we're going to change this and that. And if you are a barista that has gone through several iterations of management, it can be exhausting. It can be exhausting to just have, a manager come in and just like spend so much time like fussing around with the angles of things. And, we're going to bring in, what this little item, and I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about that. And they're not really getting to the heart of what is desired by the staff in terms of maybe there's a big thing about cleanliness at your cafe, right? And everyone's kind of frustrated about it. Like maybe they don't have the tools that they need. They're not really voicing that so much, but you come in and you don't really discover what people want. You just assume what's needed, and then you put it in place, and everyone's like, oh, golf clap. Good job. I'm really glad we brought in a new flavor. Okay, cool. I think that's exciting. But really what's exciting to people and what's meaningful is something you have to work to discover. Bring the team together, talk about their desires, talk about what they feel is needed, because the collective of baristas that works in a coffee bar is going to have a very good idea of the tension points in the coffee shop. And your job is not to come in and assume that you can prescribe solutions before you investigate problems. Your ability to observe problems is very, very limited, especially if you're a new manager or if you're in a new cafe. You have no idea what's going on, really. I mean, there is a certain amount you can see. Like as a consultant myself and for 20 years of experience, I can kind of see things, but I have to stop myself from assuming. Like when I go to a coffee bar and we do assessments, I'll talk to the baristas about what they think because I don't know. Like maybe the person is putting on a good front to me, that hired me, the boss or the owner, but the baristas have a different view of that person as a manager. Like they're great over the phone with me, but maybe in person behind the bar, they're a tyrant, And then we get to talk about that, and we get to confront that because we've uncovered it. But it's no good to just go in and assume a bunch of changes. You need to investigate and have meaningful change. And that means that you might not be able to make as many changes as you want. Well, that's good, because putting this into practice is also a part of pacing yourself. So meaningful change is a conversation. Consider this the precursor to achieving small wins. If you know what the culture is longing for and needs to do their job well, to feel valued and cared for, and like they have a sense of purpose. If you know what it takes to do that, and you can provide small wins and meaningful change along those lines, then you start to gain credibility and trust, which is number 4 on our list. Pursue trust-based relationships. This is critical. When you are a new manager, it's easy to rely on your positional authority. And frankly, it kind of is the only authority that you have. But your job as a manager is to basically dispense with and replace your positional authority as quickly as you can. So it's like a blood transfusion, kind of. You need to completely replace the thing that drives you and that is giving you life. If your life as a manager is derived from your positional authority, then you're just going to be tyrannical. You're going to be like, I said so, I'm the manager, do it or else. And owners can be like this too, especially if you're an owner / manager / everything else, right? You tend to rely on a heavy hand of authority and forget that the most sustainable form of leadership is relational. It is all about having a trust-based servant leadership position that is developed over time. It is developed by those small wins, by those conversations, by making sure that you are pacing yourself so that you are able to handle the issues that come up during the day. So people start to realize this person is for real. And more than that, this person is actually a person. if people don't trust you, they might comply with what you say, but the consistency is not going to be there. When you're gone, they're just going to revert back to the things that they've always done. But this is what Bruce Tulgan was talking about, by the way, when he talks about having true influence. True influence is when people want to do things for you, when they know that your standards are X and they say, I can't wait to go above and beyond for this person. And honestly, the transcendent version of that is for the company, for the team, because you represent sort of the ethos of the company. And if they trust you, then they trust the company, and the culture starts to really flower from there. So as a manager, you have a lot of responsibility, and it's easy to want to just default to authority, to position, and forget about relationship and trust. But those are things you should constantly be focusing on, as a new manager especially. So let's move on to the fifth tip for you as a new manager. It's really going to help you be successful, and that is good communication. You can't really have a good relationship with other people unless you are a good communicator. And part of good communication means that you are pursuing connection with people. Connecting with them means that they are able to understand what you're saying, and they know that you understand what they're saying. And this goes on and on. This is a part of showing up as a manager and actually creating a structure around the idea of communication. So when you post something, you are posting onto Slack or something like that. You're doing it not because you're just trying to dump a bunch of information out there so you can check it off of a list. You're dedicated to pursuing clarity of communication so that everybody gets what you're saying. And you're going to follow up with people afterwards to make sure that they understood what it is you were trying to say. So good communication assumes, in a sense, that you're not a good communicator, in that you are constantly trying to become more clear and arranging your words and the platform on which you communicate your words and information. You're dialing this in to the individual and to the group. So it's both group and individual. So there's mass amounts of information that you might need to communicate about a new origin that came out. Here are the specs, here's the farm name, here is all this other information, okay? But after you do that, when you get onto shift, right? You got 5 staff in the cafe. Have you talked to all 5 staff about what they thought about the coffee? It's a good question. Did you just assume that everybody read the memo and that they're going to do exactly what it says? I mean, you can't really afford to do that because somebody's going to have a question about it. And if you just drop knowledge into an app or into an email and just whistle your way away from the situation, then you're basically dropping a cherry bomb in a toilet and running, in my opinion, because the information enters into the atmosphere of the culture with a lot of inertia, with a lot of atmospheric drag. So you need to be there to sort of shepherd that thing in. And it does not need to take a lot of time to do this. And when you drop information, you just kind of check in with people and say, are there any questions? Invite feedback. Open up the dialogue so that people know that there's a channel through which they can ask questions or voice concerns or come up with ideas. It's a two-way street, conversational in nature. Communication is not just you giving direction and somebody saying, okay, and then never questioning it. I am personally suspicious anytime somebody says, yes, okay, great, and then they just move on. I feel like, do you have any questions? Like, it can't be that easy. I get uneasy when it feels too easy, if you know what I mean. So I maintain a little bit of skepticism around there and make sure I'm gaining clarity in my communication. And as a new manager, what you need to do is make sure that your communication is being taken in and understood, and that you are understanding those who you're communicating with. And at the end of the day, you do need to make a decision. But if everyone is heard and you know they hear you and there's an understanding, great. You're not going to please everybody. Good communication does not solve some people disagreeing. I mean, when it comes down to it, there is going to be a level of authority that you need to exercise to say, no, we're going to do this. I hear you, but the thing that we need to do is X. That's part of your responsibility. But it also creates a situation in which people will then go from just adhering to it to giving it a benefit of the doubt because of the relationship and the trust. So your communication is really critical. Always be working on that as a new manager. Now, number 6 is something that we've talked about on the show before, but I think every manager needs to be doing all the time as a priority, and that is one-on-ones. One-on-ones are sit-down, formative conversations with your staff, maybe every week or 10 days or so, just for 20 minutes. You don't need to make it a big time commitment, but half of this is going to be simply asking them, how's it going? That's it. And then open up the floor for anything that they want to talk about. It doesn't have to be work. It could be their vacation, their family, whatever they want to talk about, they'll talk about with you. But you come to this meeting also with your own stuff to talk about, and you then communicate with them some of the stuff that you want to talk about. Here's some stuff that's happening in the store. Here's some awesome wins that I saw from you. Here's some things that I want you to keep working on. And here, how can I help? This is what a good one-on-one has, right? It's a relationship where you're both still manager and employee, but you're connecting on both the personal level in a way, but you're also connecting on the work level, and you're building trust in one another that, hey, this manager is constantly meeting with me, so I know if something comes up, I can talk about it in the one-on-one, and they're going to have a listening ear and understanding about them. They're going to take it in, not be defensive. They're just going to, be in conversation with me. And then they're going to provide some affirmation, some challenge, and they're going to follow up with me the next week. This is your goal as a manager, is to be formative in your presence and your practice. That is what managers do. It's not just, the status quo. And I always hate how people are like, well, there's a difference between, managing and leading. Managers are just like, do this, automatons. I'm making a robot movement with my arms that you can't see right now. But then leaders are like on a mountain and they have the wind in their hair and they're saying, follow me. It's really stupid, I think, because people in management positions in coffee shops, I think, are the ultimate leaders in the business. They not only make sure things are going well, but they also make sure that the people are doing well, and they can create momentum to make things even better. Leading and managing are basically one and the same in my book. So don't let anybody try to create this false dichotomy between you can either be a manager or a leader. It just sells books, okay? One-on-ones. Let's get back to that after my little tirade there. One-on-ones are very critical. I'll link to another episode where we talk about this in the show notes. But if you want to do any kind of a meeting that will transform your organization, substantive, high value, good listening, good information, affirmation, challenge-based one-on-ones are where it's at. Now, number 7, the last thing. We've talked about pacing yourself. Getting clarity from your boss, making meaningful changes to the team, small wins, right? Having a relationship and trust-based authority about you that you pursue, having great communication, and then implementing one-on-ones. Now, the last thing, schedule yourself. Schedule your week. For most managers, this may be one of the hardest things to do because what we're used to doing as baristas. We come into the cafe and we're just like, we hit the ground running. We're either taking over for the morning shift and figuring out what we need to do as we go, starting the pre-close right away, or we just woke up and we roll into the coffee bar and we do our morning routine. And it's just every day we kind of let the day tell us what is next, right? We let the day kind of direct us. But as a manager, if you do that, you will not get anything done. You can't rely on the day or the people to tell you what to do because, the problem is they will. Okay? They will tell you, you need to do these 10 things before you do these 20 things, and you've got 30 minutes to do it, and it's impossible. This is where burnout happens because we don't plan our weeks. So out of all the things we just talked about, you have to find a place for them in the week. Yeah, depending on when your week starts, if you've got a day off and then you've got a whole string of days where it counts as your work week, usually doing your schedule, personal schedule. I'm not talking about the cafe. I'm talking about your personal to-do list and priority list happens right before the week starts. So you can block off time for administrative tasks, bank runs, the 60% we talked about that you actually are being paid to work on on paper that's written down. Those are the things that go in first. Those are given the big blocks of time that I'm going to have enough time to do these things and do them well. And around those things, you place the other items like the one-on-ones, checking in with the staff, researching new ways to arrange certain things in the refrigerator, whatever it is that you're currently, in the 40% category of special projects that will help the overall organization. Those are the things that you fill into your schedule next. You give yourself time so when I'm done with this big task, I'm going to have some time set aside for this task, right? Now, as a manager, you're usually a working manager, which means you pull a certain amount of hours. For most managers, I recommend, if an owner is asking me, don't schedule your managers longer than 20 hours a week. Because then they just don't have time to respond to the needs of the cafe very well, to do the administrative tasks as well. And, if they have to cover for a sick employee, now they're up to like close to 30 hours a week. And now they're starting to feel the pressure, right? They can't really do their job very well beyond that. This is just what I've experienced, what I've seen. But the fact is that when you're on the shift as a manager, the ideal is that you are literally on shift. Like, you're not just abandoning that barista that is unlucky enough to work with this manager that is constantly just in the back saying, let me know if you need me. I'm going to be doing the schedule, because they haven't got the time. They haven't managed their time well. The best thing you can do as a manager is be there 100% on the shift and lead with the barista next to you, and not try to exit the shift and kind of half be there and half be in your iPad or laptop. Be 100% where you are. And scheduling your week allows you to do this. And it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to get it right the first week, second week, or third week. But if you dedicate yourself to organizing your time like this every week, you're going to get better at it every week. And after a year of doing that, you're going to find, wow, I actually can be mentally 100% on shift. And then when I'm in the administrative phase, I can be 100% there. That's the goal that we're shooting for. But it starts with making sure that you're thinking through what's going to happen instead of just entering into each day and each week like it's this big mystery and, well, I hope it's going to be a good week. Part of the luxury of being a manager is that you have more control over how your week goes than a barista does. And so that's why I end with scheduling. It's really, really important. So this is an incomplete list, obviously. There are many things that a manager needs to do, but I find if you focus on these 7 things and put them into practice, like I said in the beginning, then you'll find that they form a great foundation for your success. If you're a new manager, you're in such a luxurious position because you get to start these things as a normal way of operating from the beginning. If you're not a new manager, but you're listening to this thinking these are great ideas, pick a couple things and start implementing them. Start implementing them slowly because you've already got so much momentum of the current habits. You've built up some level of codependency in the business that if you just dropped everything and started doing these things, then I think you might do more harm than good. So, it's going to take a little bit more for you as a manager who's got some years of maybe some less than great habits to change. But pace yourself back to number 1, pace yourself and implement these as you have opportunity. The main key to all of this is that you do it consistently. If you show up and do this consistently, you're going to find yourself energized. You're going to find the culture is enriched, and ultimately you and the cafe benefit from you being a manager. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you want to reach out to me again, it's chris@keystotheshop.com with any questions, comments, or feedback, etc. If you want to work with Keys to the Shop Consulting, if anything you've heard in this episode sounds like something that you might want to do in your shop, but you need some guidance, if you'd like some coaching over the phone or anything more, again, reach out, chris@keystotheshop.com. And again, there's going to be some great episode links in the show notes to continue learning about some of these 7 tips. I am always really happy to talk about the subject of management. It really means a lot to me that you've tuned into the show. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.